Hey, my friend, and welcome to Aligned to Rise, the podcast for ambitious women who are ready to rise above their symptoms, release old limitations, and fully rise into their true power and potential. I'm your host, Alicia Chavez, functional nutritionist, performance coach, and former endo and infertility warrior who knows what it's like to feel held back by your body and your beliefs. I've taken a journey of true healing from the inside out so that I can show up feeling great in my body, confident and unstoppable. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Through a blend of functional nutrition and deep mindset work, this show will empower you to reclaim your vitality, trust your intuition, and live unapologetically in your purpose. If you're ready to align your body, mind, and spirit so you can rise to your highest potential, you're in the right place. Let's rise, my friend. This show was created for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for medical advice or treatment. Hey, my friend, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have a special guest for you today. Her name is Alicia Meek, and her and I connected because we both are very in tune with and on board with the idea of how very important your mindset is to your life and achieving your goals, whether that may be health related or really anything that you want to achieve, career, relationships, any of the goals that you have in life. So I reached out to Alicia because she is an intuitive tarot and NLP practitioner, and she really loves to support capable but typically exhausted women in creating and building the lives that they actually want. So her work really centers around restoring clarity, self-trust, and momentum through grounded rituals, honest insight, and practical intuitive tools, not hype or fixing or forced motivation, which I absolutely love. So Alicia draws from years of study in intuitive and psychological modalities. She blends her work through tarot, NLP, ritual practice, and embodied awareness to help women quiet their internal noise, reconnect with themselves, and move forward in a way that feels steady and sustainable. Her approach is rooted in self-authority, personal responsibility, and real-life application, offering women a way to create change that actually lasts. Through her work at Wild Moon Sacred Cycles, Alicia guides women who are tired of spinning or starting over into deeper clarity, grounded direction, and lives that feel intentional rather than reactive. Love this so much. Truly, I had such a blast connecting with Alicia. I've really enjoyed chatting with her and getting to know her and the beautiful work that she does. I think this is something that really we can all use a little bit of in our lives. So I will let Alicia share more because she has such a beautiful story and she has so many wonderful nuggets of information within this episode. I just know that you're going to love it, and I will see you in there. All right. Well, hi, Alicia. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast. So thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I would love, before we dive into all of the amazing things that you talk about, I would love if you can just share a little bit about you, just who you are, what you do, how you came to be doing what you're doing, and just a little bit of your story.
It's a lot. So right now I am a intuitive tarot coach and NLP practitioner. And so how I like to describe that is I take the woo-woo and the practical and I blend it in a way that just really works for the feminine spirit, really works for women. You know, as somebody who takes quite a few clients, that's like my Monday to Friday job is taking clients. I've really noticed that women need the spiritual. We need the spiritual to move forward, but we also need the practical to move forward. And I had to cultivate my feminine over time. And so that's been a really fun journey for me. And so the practical came really easy for me. Yeah. So a little bit about my story is I moved to Australia when I was 30 years old to go and be with this Aussie man. And within 4 days, I realized, oh my God, this was a horrible mistake. I can't believe I did this. I gave up all of my jobs, I gave up all of my friends, got rid of all of my stuff. And within 4 days, I found out, oh my gosh, this is not the right guy for me. And do I have the bravery to just go home? And I was like, no, I don't have the bravery to go home. And I feel like I need to do something here. So I kind of stuck it out, stayed with him for a little bit. And within a couple of days of figuring that out about him, I met this woman, Kate Denning, and she is a tea leaf reader. She's a famous palmist. You know, she's written a couple of books. She's really well known. She travels around in a gypsy wagon and goes to festivals and conferences and amazing things. And I met her, and I was asking her, you know, can I take your workshops, and in exchange, I'll teach you how to do your website properly, and I'll teach you how to do your social media. And she jumped on that right away. And it was a really incredible experience. At that point in my life, what I really, really wanted was to live in a yurt, or to have a yurt outside of my house, and to have that as a ceremonial space and a space that I had to gather others. And as I sit down with Kate Denning, as she starts doing a reading on me, and within a couple of seconds, she's just like, what is this about a yurt? And I was just absolutely blown away. So I spent about just over a year training with her for all of these amazing things that she offers, and started to blend that with the psychology work that I had already done, the counseling work, and I had studied esoteric and occult practices for most of my life. And so I started to blend that all in together. And so that was 10 years ago. And I could not be more elated that I had gone to Australia to be with this terrible man, because it really has put me to where I am now, which now I'm married to the love of my life, the most wonderful man I've ever met. I have my beautiful rescue dog. I have my wonderful home. And I have this career, this long-standing career that was built from all of that,
Mm.
you know, those threshold, those precipice moments in life. And so that's where I started, and that's where I am now.
That's so cool. I love that story. And it's so fascinating how something that seems like, what potentially was a wrong turn, or, something that maybe didn't go as planned in your life ended up becoming this beautiful thing and led you to where you are today, which I think is true for so many of us. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm super excited to dig into all of the work that you do. I really love how you were talking about blending the spiritual with the practical. I really love the idea of that, because I think there are some women out there who really love the spiritual stuff. There are some women who really love the practical stuff. And sometimes it gets very easy to kind of separate those things, like it's one or the other. So I love that you really blend those together. And I would love if you can share a little bit about just what that looks like in your life and in your practice.
Absolutely. So in my sessions, so the reason that I call myself an intuitive tarot coach and NLP practitioner is because, you know, you need to have those letters behind your name. If I just say I'm an intuitive tarot reader, and I'm not really a reader, you know, I'm a guide, I'm a practitioner. It's so much more than, you know, I just picked up tarot cards and started telling people how to live their life. Like, I have years and years of education that
Yeah.
went into that. And then I took the tarot, and I learned from a Kabbalah perspective, I learned from a spiritual perspective. So looking at the tarot more so as a spiritual path that you move through life. And then to take the NLP into that is massive. So for those listening that don't know what NLP is, it's neuro linguistic programming, and it's essentially how to speak to your brain on a regular
Mm.
basis to achieve what you want to achieve, because we have all of this stuff locked up in our unconscious and our subconscious mind that is actually doing a lot of the demotivating, the self-doubt, the self-criticism, the criticism of others, like living in judgment, all of these things. And so I noticed when I first started serving people as a tarot reader, they would say, okay, so you're absolutely right. That is what's wrong with my life. What do I do? How do I fix it? And And this was interesting for me because 10 years previous, I had finished my training to be a nutritionist and I was a clinical nutritionist. And I ended up quitting because everybody was doing the same thing, was turning me into their counselor. And I'm like, I just want to teach you how to make chili. and, and so in the same process of being in Australia, I decided in that time that I was going to upgrade a lot of my psychology training, which included NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy, just so many pieces, including I have a diploma in counseling and mindfulness, but mindfulness in the way not of emptying your mind, but of explaining things to your mind. So it was
Mm.
mindfulness that eventually made me realize, oh, that was actually NLP. Because a lot of things could be classified under NLP as well. But
Yeah.
essentially, so when somebody comes into a session, and so we go through the cards and we find out the insights that are from there based on what they came in for. And then when it comes to the what, it's always from the inside. We're never going to try and change the people that are external from us. We have to change our own lives and change our own perspective and reframe and sit on the inside of our bodies and our minds and find somewhere to rest there. And
Hmm.
so a lot of what I do is, women is I serve women, so it's always going to be about women. They come to this place where they are just so frustrated and they're looping. And they're
Yeah.
looping on something and they're upset about something. It's either a pattern or a thought or whatever it is, and they're just looping and looping and looping. And so a lot of what I do is try to find somewhere for the brain to rest. So if we
Mm.
can find a perspective and a reframe that you can rest, then we can actually change it. Because now you're not going crazy anymore thinking, "Oh, this is what that means." And when you decide that something means something, then if you decide, "Oh, that person has been bad to me." Most of the time that person has just been bad to themselves and that
Hmm.
extended out onto you. So if we can do a proper reframe and use tarot and spiritual insight for your own journey about how this experience was actually helpful for you and that it can actually help you move forward and that you can use this, we find that reframe, we find that perspective, then we get you out of the hole. We can get you out of the hole that you're in. And then on top of that, I really enjoy making practical steps forward for people and helping them figure out how exactly they're going to move forward in life, whether that's finding a partner, getting a certain career, making a certain amount of money. I have a lot of different areas of education, as you know, like a nutritionist and herbalist, NLP practitioner, many fitness instructor, many things. And
Yeah.
so I love helping people with those practical steps forward as well. And so a session with me is such a I would say a well-rounded piece because I've taken 10 years to really sketch it out and exactly how can I serve people in the best way possible.
Yeah. I love that. That's just such beautiful work that you do. And I love how so much of it is really centered around your thoughts and your mindset. And I love that you're talking about the looping that happens. I think that's something we can all relate to, right? It's that whole idea of you have these certain thoughts and that causes you to behave in a certain way, whether it's doing something or not doing something. And then that brings those same thoughts back around and just repeat that over and over and over again. It becomes like that Groundhog Day where then it just becomes very challenging to move in the direction that you want. But I love that you help people to kind of break free from that loop and to really move in the direction of their goals, whatever that may be. And I know that that's a big part of your work is just helping women to navigate towards what they actually want in life. So I would love if you can share with us a little bit, because I know you have some specific tools and things that you use. I know when we had talked previously, you were even talking about the importance of your morning routine, your sacred rituals in the mornings. I know you have some specific things that you like to use, and I would love if you can kind of share a little bit about what that looks like, what your daily habits are, the kind of things that you help other people with, even just as a starting point to get going on all of this.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, a huge part of my work is helping people with the looping and the aftercare of that is essentially, how do we prevent you from getting into that same situation? So helping women to make better choices. And better choices includes every single day. And how do we make better choices later today? We make better choices later today by taking our time in the morning, whether it's 5 minutes, 20 minutes, or 2.5 hours, to reconnect with what's actually important with us and what is our best self and what is it that we're trying to create and how do we show up that way in the world. And if you take a couple of hours to put kind of a declaration or a essay of self, of this is who I really am, and the reactive self that is coming out in the world, that's not your true self. That's your reactive self. That's where you're exhausted. That's where your ego has taken over too much. You're frustrated. And so we need to draw that down. And so we draw that down in the morning by putting something together that, like I said, you can do it for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 2.5 hours. And I call them morning rituals, and you put them together into something called a morning practice so that we can stay away from words like structure and routine. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we move the spiritual kind of into the practical as well, because those words end up frustrating us over time and the restriction of how they feel. And so, what I love about morning rituals is that if you only have 5 minutes, and if you only have 5 minutes in your car, we can make that work for you.
Yeah.
It can flow and change and adapt to your life and your existence and not the other way around. You don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. You don't have to change your entire life to make this work. You can feed this into your life in such a way. And that is, in the morning, you need some version of checking back in with that higher self, checking with the language that you're using with yourself, that you're using with others. One of my favorite ones is called half awake affirmations. And so, that state when you're in bed and you're not awake, and you're not awake, but you also know that you're not asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So this is such an incredible time to program your brain for neurolinguistics and into your subconscious, or sorry, your unconscious. And that is because everything is so open and susceptible to that point. The ego is not awake yet to start rejecting things. And so I had this nervous system breakdown over COVID, quite severe actually. And I had to rebuild my confidence and a lot of my inner self at that point because it had shattered a lot of what I believed to be myself. And one of the things that I did was integrating my morning routines. And so the half awake affirmations looked like: I love myself, I love my body, I love my life. And that is because throughout the day I was feeling panicked about everything all of the
Yeah.
time. All of the time I was in this intense panic. And that intense panic brings on a lot of criticism, judgment, self-doubt, all of these things. So we need to start programming it into ourselves, especially if you're a person that wakes up with higher cortisol, or if you are one of the person that you get like a cortisol spike at 3 a.m. Like if you find that you're awake at 3 a.m., that is not random. And there are
Mm-hmm.
spiritual reasons for that a lot of the time, that if your cortisol is spiking at 3 a.m., it means that something in your life is out of alignment. Something is not right. You haven't found somewhere to rest in your mind. You haven't found somewhere to rest in your body because something's not right. You haven't fixed it yet. You're putting up with that person. You're allowing somebody to treat you poorly. You're working into a job that has no purpose for you. You're ignoring your purpose in general. There's so many reasons why that could happen. So when we come into that half awake state, because life is really all about building confidence, and the more confidence that you can have in a non-arrogant, humble way, then you can achieve anything because you have that confidence in yourself, and it's not nasty, and it's not
Yeah.
inorganic. And so building that from that half awake state is one of the best things that you can do first thing in the morning, so that when you actually do become fully awake, you've released a lot of your crap already.
Mm.
And you're already in this state of, I love and accept myself, and I love and accept my body. And now you can step into your day, and ideally the rest of your morning practice, your morning rituals, in a way that is from that state of confidence, that state of self-love. And so if I zip to the end, there's so many morning rituals that you can do. And so I do have a course for this, and I will give you a link to include that in the show notes. If I skip to the end of what my routine is on any given day, I have what's called a morning declaration. And I don't have the whole thing memorized. It's incredibly long and I probably should have had one ready. But essentially, here's what I do a lot of the time, especially if my confidence is low. Like I will come into a power pose,
Mm.
roll my shoulders back, open my chest. I've got an open heart, I've got an open mind. I'm relaxing my jaw muscles and I come into this power stance and I start to speak to myself in a certain way. And you can make this up as you go along as well, especially if you know yourself and you know what you're up to. I am a woman who wakes up rested and alive in her purpose. I am a woman who shows up in the world as her best self, as her higher self. I am a woman who does not put up with immaturity, scarcity, or self doubt. And you just go on and on like that. So, what are you trying to achieve in your life? So, recently I added to mine because I've been doing this thing with my business recently where I'm times 10ing it in a very short period of time. And so, the quality of my food has gone down because I'm like,
Ah.
just get it in there, you know? And I'm like, whoo, okay, got to become aware of that. Got to bring myself back to that. So I included in my morning declaration, I fill my body and nourish my body and my mind and my spirit with all of the beautiful things that are going to give it energy and make it feel fantastic. And so I include all of that, like everything that you're trying to achieve. And having a long declaration, mine's probably about 6 paragraphs and long paragraphs at that. The longer that you're speaking it, oh, the more into it you get, and the more animated, and like allow yourself to be animated. Raise your voice, like throw your arms around, really feel the emotion of what you're saying and come into that place. So you are declaring in your morning, this is who I am. This is how I'm showing up. This is what we're doing now. And so you program that into your mind and your body. And then when you go out into the world and somebody cuts you off and you're like, oh, screw you can come back way faster and go, okay, I'm not going to yell about it or let it ruin my morning. I'm going to say screw you and then I'm just going to move on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, there's no expectation of perfection. We're not angels. We're not going to sit here and, be monkish all the time. Like, no, I'm still going to say screw you when somebody cuts me off. But that adrenaline spike that happens, I'm not going to allow that to continue. I'm going to bring myself down. I'm going to come back to that place. So it's not about being perfect.
Mm.
It's not about expecting perfection for yourself. It's about setting yourself up in the morning so that your days act as foundational blocks and they stack one on each other. Every single day can act as a foundational, strong foundation of the life that you are trying to achieve. And then you have this strong foundation, and so the opposite of that is when you get into a bad relationship and you're love bombing each other and you are now spending every single night together after only knowing each other for a week. That's not a good foundation. That's not a strong foundation. That will crumble so easily. And so what we want to do is we want to build life from strong foundation. And of course, that starts with start energy, and start energy starts in the morning. That's
Mm-hmm.
every morning that you wake up, you have the availability of start energy. I'm going to go into this day, decide what you're going to go into that day as. So that's just, a little bit about my morning rituals, my morning practice. And this is a big part of what I am passing on to women right now. I really want to create a pathway and this flow and this flexibility, this evolution, this adaptability in a morning practice as well. This is not something that you sit down, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. You have a morning menu. You can go, today I just want to do these two. Or
Mm.
today I'm not feeling great, so I don't want to do any of these. Take a day off. That's no problem. I don't have any time today, so I'm going to go into my car and I'm going to do my morning declaration on my drive. There's always a way to reconnect, to get back into that alignment. And so that is part of what my morning rituals course is all about. Is I want
Mm.
to teach you in a way that feels flexible, that feels
Yeah.
feminine, because the feminine is chaotic and the masculine is linear. They need to get up at 5:30. They need to be at the gym at 6 a.m. or else they go into this incredible shame for themselves. And I want you to have a productive, efficient, effective life, but
Mm.
without the guilt and shame and without
Yeah.
the intense structure.
Beautiful. Amen to all of that. I really love how you're talking about the fluidity of it, how it's just, it doesn't have to be, this is my exact morning routine that I do every single day. And it takes, 2 hours of my morning and it has to happen or my day is ruined. Like it can totally be, if you have that time, amazing. And you can do all of the things and you're just feeling it great. Because I know I've had that experience myself of, I think, trying to force, because personally, I love having somewhat of a morning routine ritual to start off my day. It just feels so much better than just roll out of bed and hop in the shower and go, and there's no direction for the day. I really love setting intentions and, affirmation, meditation, breath work. I mean, I've kind of brought in so many different pieces as well, but that's something that I know I have learned in my own journey is just when you try to make it super perfectly structured and you're thinking that it has to be that way every single day, it has to be this exact thing. And then when it doesn't happen, it leaves you feeling frustrated or, like you failing at it or whatever, when really it can change from day to day. And I love even the intuitiveness of that, of, hey, I have this menu and I can just pick and choose what works for me today. And I think that's so beautiful. And I love that you're teaching so many women how to do that. I'm definitely taking some little nuggets for myself that I want to use moving forward as well, because I'm always trying to tweak that process for myself and everything. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And one thing I really love that I wanted to highlight in there too is just you're talking about using each day, and particularly the mornings, which makes sense because that's the start of every day. But you're talking about using that as your foundation of, I don't know if I'm going to say this is exactly like you did, but of building towards the life that you really want to have, whatever that may be for you. And I know that you work with women who are working on all different areas of life, whether that may be career or relationships or whatever is kind of the focal point of your life right now. But I would love if you can just speak to that a little bit more, what that really looks like as far as, because I think, and you can definitely add your thoughts to this, but one thing that I notice is a lot of people have kind of maybe a vague idea of where they want to go in life, oh, I'd love to be in a healthy relationship, or I would love to have a more fulfilling career, but it maybe is a little bit of a vague idea out there of something that you want without really necessarily having a well-formed, picture and visual of the life that you really want to have. So I would love if you can kind of walk us through what that looks like, because again, that's such a big part of your work is helping women to move towards the life that they really want. So what does that look like to, take those beautiful foundations that you're building through the morning rituals and all of this, and actually take those action steps, those practical steps to move your life in the direction that you really want it to be. Because, of course, you've done that for yourself beautifully, and I love that. And I would love any nuggets you can share with us about that journey.
Yeah, so this is, at the time of recording this, we're a couple of days away from New Year's.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be doing my yearly manifestation workshop. And this year, it's a lot about self-respect
Mm.
because the life that you want to create a lot of it comes down to confidence and self-respect.
Yeah.
So what do you want? You want the healthy relationship? Okay. What exactly does that look like? And are you sure you want it? Do you really want it? Do you really, really, really want it? Or is it something that somebody else told you that you wanted? Of course,
Mm.
probably most people want a healthy relationship, but when people zip in and get a little bit more specific in that, it's really important to make sure before you set out to create the life that you want, that you are sure that that is the life that you want to create. What are the non-negotiable pieces? For me, the non-negotiable pieces were I want a strong and emotionally healthy man. That was very, very important. It is totally non-negotiable. And it just turned out that he's really good looking.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Loved that for me. Um, yeah, so those foundational pieces, if you decide what you want in the future, okay, so I want this healthy relationship. If you are being reactive and closed down and having scattered days and living in fatigue and not creating the life that you want, then how are you going to be the partner that's ready for that partner?
Mm.
So this is kind of where it all comes together, is what do you want in life and how do you become the person that has earned that?
Yeah.
And there's some spirituality that does not like that word earned, but as a person that has studied religion and studied many, many spiritualities, they're just using different words for the word
Sure.
earned. Because the thing is, there isn't any shortcuts to anything. So you can manifest anything that you want, but you're still going to have to do the work to actually have a strong foundation to be able to keep it. Because if you want a healthy relationship, you go out and find a wonderful man, and then you guys love bomb each other. You get in bed and you spend, you start spending every single night together. It doesn't matter how perfect you guys are for each other. Neither of you were actually ready to hold that relationship. So that relationship won't be healthy. It's very, very, very unlikely. 99.9% of the time, those relationships do not work out.
Yeah.
And that's because the foundation isn't there. And the self that is ready to receive that isn't there. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing in my manifesting workshop that I'm doing in a few days is I'm going to be asking people, are you in 2026, are you going to be preparing to manifest and preparing to get what you want, or are you ready to go and get it? And what is the difference
Mm.
between those two pieces? And so the foundational pieces that I'm talking about are the foundational pieces of getting ready, of preparing to be and have all of those wonderful things. Because if you are in an exhausted, fatigue state, your hormones are off and your cycle is not great and your friendships aren't great and you have bad habits of watching too much Netflix, smoking, drinking, hanging out with people who gossip too much, like all of these things. You need to take care of that first. And so
Yeah.
you need to decide who it is that is going to be your best self that rises through that. And then build those foundations on a daily basis to become the person that's actually ready for a healthy relationship. Because if you bring a healthy relationship best partner into that life, it's not ready to hold him. It's not ready
Yeah.
to hold that person. So I hope that answered your question. It's of course it's very unique to each person. I suppose what I'm trying to get at is a lot of what I had to figure out for myself in Australia was that the reason that I went to Australia was because I didn't have any self-respect.
Mm.
That's why I went there. Because I was just like, let's just try to make it work with this man. We had been
Yeah.
together for about a year and a half. He had been not so great. I found out some of his secrets after a year of being together and was trying to push through and still was willing to give up my entire life to go. And then of course I get to Australia and I found, oh no, his person hasn't changed at all. Like he's still doing his little secret things. And so the reason that I went there is because I didn't have any self-respect. I could not hold a healthy relationship, so why not go and be in a bad one?
Wow.
I decided to turn that around in the moment while also holding myself back, which is an interesting thing to do because I stayed in Australia and I stayed with him. I was with him the entire time. I didn't actually break up with him until I left Australia, which is a really crazy story. I found out when I was in Australia trying to get PR that I was still married to the guy that I married when I was 18 years old. And
Wow.
I was 30. I hadn't even seen this guy for 10 years. I thought I had been divorced for 6 years. And so the universe just totally came in so many ways. This was such a precipice year for me to be like, girl, where's your self respect? Why did you come here? But also, here's an opportunity with this woman. And here's all of this time and space. And so I worked on myself. I worked on myself. And then ultimately, the universe kicked me out of Australia. And I and I had to come home, and the second that I got home, that's when I was like, oh my God, hell no, I don't want to be with this man. There is no way I'm going to be with this. No way I'm going back to Australia. There's no way I'm going to be with this man. And
Yeah.
so that self respect finally kicked in.
Wow. And that must have been such a powerful, but I'm sure challenging realization for you of, because we all want to kind of, you know, excuse our behavior, blame it on somebody else. Maybe he put up a front and I thought he was somebody different than he was. Like we all have these stories and these reasons behind what we do,
That's
what
the
we
loop.
do. Yep, right
That's the
there.
loop. So
Yes.
if I don't take responsibility for the fact that I knew that he wasn't a good guy when I went to Australia and I choose to be angry and blame him, where's that going
Hmm.
to leave me? That's going to leave me in this anger victimization loop. And I
Yeah.
cannot be empowered or have self-respect in that loop. So the way that I get myself out of it is I get some self-respect.
Yep.
And I choose myself and I take responsibility myself for what has happened in my life. And then I decided to take a year of celibacy.
Yeah.
So I broke up with the Australia guy. I'm back in Canada. I'm back in Vancouver, living in a one bedroom apartment with my girlfriend's living in the living room. Just it's COVID. I'm trying to make it work. And I decide, oh, if I want to break this pattern, if I want to finally choose myself and choose to have some self-respect, then I need to break this pattern. I don't know exactly how to do that yet, but I do know that dating and sex is not going to get me there.
Yeah.
I do know that. So that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to start with 12 months of celibacy. And
Mm.
so after the 12 months, I started dating, and every guy I dated, I was like, nope, nope. You would have been great for me 3 years ago. You would have been great for me 5 years ago. Now, no, myself, I have my self-respect and I'm staying in alignment with what I have chosen for myself. And that is when we get gifts from the universe. And it took another six
Hmm.
months. So I was celibate for a year and a half unwillingly. and and then I met my husband. And then I
Nice.
met my husband, and he was very excited when we met, and I had to slow him down
Hmm.
because he really wanted to spend every single day together. He wanted to spend every single night together. He's weeing me left and right after like 2 weeks together. I'm like, dude, calm down. We don't know yet. We need to take this slow. I
Yeah.
need to figure out if I'm ready for this, and I need to figure out if you're ready for this, and we need to figure out if we can create a vessel together that can actually hold a healthy relationship. And so we slowed it right down. And here we are. We're married and happy and in a very healthy relationship.
Beautiful. I love that so much. And I know for me on my journey, so much of my journey has been related to health. I mean, not that there haven't been other areas of life I've been working on along the way, of course. I was actually very fortunate to end up in a very healthy relationship early on. I feel like I really dodged a bullet, honestly, with all of the relationship drama. I've been with my husband now for 16 years.
Wow.
Started dating him when I was in my early 20s. Like that was it. It was just that part was easy. Doesn't mean that every part of my life has been as smooth, but for me, I've talked about a lot on the podcast before my journey with endometriosis and particularly with my fertility journey, but the cool thing is the things that you're talking about can absolutely apply to anything. It's,
Hmm.
you're sharing your version of that story and what that looked like for you, but I can absolutely see how that can connect with really anything that you're working on, because for me it was kind of similar where when all I really desperately wanted was to have a baby, the thoughts, the emotions, and therefore the actions that I were taking just all felt like it was coming from this place of anger or fear or sadness or hurt or guilt. It was all kind of coming from this not so great space emotionally, and definitely was stuck in that loop of just, you know, doing things that may on the surface seem like I'm taking care of myself, but what that really looked like was kind of just shutting down and, hiding away and, not necessarily taking the best care of myself initially. And when I made a decision to really take responsibility for the way that I feel and get out of that victim mentality of like, oh, why is this happening to me? That's when things really started to shift for me, because months and months before I actually got pregnant, I was in a space of actually feeling good in life again. Whereas for years I was really struggling with all the emotional stuff and getting to the place of feeling excited about life and feeling like I'm moving forward and I'm doing things that are, you know, helping me to get to where I want to go and what I really envision for myself. It just things really shifted to the point where, all of a sudden when I did get pregnant, it was easy. After this struggle for all these years. So,
Yay, it's a happy ending.
absolutely. Yeah. So I just love how, for everybody listening, your struggles may be relationship related, maybe health related, maybe career, financially related. We all have our different stories, but these same ideas and concepts can apply to absolutely anything. Think this is can be a good thing for listeners to think about of just what has your brain been looping on lately? What are those repetitive thoughts that you're noticing, those repetitive emotions that are coming up? And I love that that's, really what you help people do is just guide people in a different direction. Let's make some changes here. It may be tough when you put that mirror in front of you, but those shifts can be incredibly powerful.
Well, that's really lovely to hear that it ended up being easy for you in the end. And that's the way that life shows up for us. We can't have
Yeah.
everything handed to us on an easy platter, and most things are not handed. And we can go through the world with a chip on our shoulder because of that, or we can take that challenge and rise to it and
Yeah.
use every chronic illness, use every mental issue, every physical issue, every hardship in relationship, career, purpose, whatever it is. We can take all of that and we can use it as a reason to rise, as
Mm,
opposed to stay sitting down
I
and
love that.
as sitting down and curling up in a ball. And it doesn't matter how many times you've done it before, you can do it again. And if you have done it before, fantastic. This is not going to be my life is not just going to be so beautiful from this point out, and neither is
Yeah.
anybody's. We have practice of picking ourselves up, and you have things that you have learned along the way every single time, and you can share those with others and have those shared with you, and use the things that you have in the past to rise again, rise now.
Yeah.
Prepare, manifest, do what you need to do, gain that self-respect, love yourself so much,
Mm.
because if you don't like yourself, then how can anybody else really like you,
Mm.
like it has to be within you first, and everything that you create in yourself is then going to show up externally.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always from the inside out, right?
Mhm.
We can never expect life to really shift in any direction if you're always just thinking from the outside in, right? It's got to be the other way around. Awesome. Gosh, I feel like there's so much, so many layers here, but I absolutely love the work that you do. I just think it's so incredibly powerful and truly this is the type of work that every woman needs in their life. I mean, it's just when you learn to recognize those patterns and loops and start to make some shifts and changes in the way that you're living your life, that's when the magic starts to happen. So, thank you for sharing everything and just doing what you do. Now, I know you have some stuff coming up. By the time this episode airs, I know the New Year's manifestation will, I think, have already happened, but you still have some other wonderful offerings that people can look into. And I would love if you can just share a little bit about what we can do to work with you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the one of the best things to do is to follow me on Instagram, Wild and Sacred with Alicia. And I will give you the link to include for the Wild Morning Rituals course. And there's lots of ways to work with me one on one, and my courses online, and just, engage and hang around. And I love it when people reach out and ask me any questions. And if you feel like my style of, the tarot, the woo woo, and the practical, the foundational might be something that could help you move forward, then absolutely reach out. I would love to hear from you.
Mm, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Alicia. And for everybody listening, we will link to all of the goodies in the show notes so you can check out all the things and all the ways to connect. But just thank you for being you and for being here today and sharing your beautiful story and all of the tools that you help people with along their own journeys. Just so much gratitude for you and everything that you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thanks for sharing your story as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for another episode of Aligned to Rise, and we will chat again soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to Aligned to Rise. If this episode spoke to you, take a moment to share it with a friend who needs this message too. And then don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'll see you next time, my friend. Let's rise together.